my name is Vesna. I'm president of the board of directors of MMEG. Thank you all for being here. First, I'd like to slip in a quick word before we start of promotion for our upcoming photo competition for our grantees. So this is a photo competition we're holding this year. It's open to all of MMEG grantees from April through the end of May. And so we'd like to ask you grantees, spread the word. Please send in your photos of your actions and your projects, and you could win a cash prize for your organization and be exhibited at the World Bank. So that's a wonderful thing we're doing April, May through its end. It closes at the end of May, so you'll be able to do that. Look on our website for the info. Okay, so a warm welcome to our three panelists that we have here today, to our friends and donors of MMEG, to MMEG Selection Committee members, MMEG board members, and all our precious MMEG volunteers. And a special welcome to all other MMEG grantees who are here today. So I'd like to invite you, MMEG grantees who are here today, to identify yourself using the heart icon. This was an idea from our communications coordinator. If you could just use the heart icon on your image so we see you. We appreciate you, grantees, very much. Thank you. Also, if you're a grantee working in AI or information technologies, or you have an interest in this field and you'd like to network with other grantees in the field, I'd invite you to make yourselves known. Or you can send a private message to the panelists if you'd prefer that, and share ways you can connect with each other. Because MMEG Talks, they're not only just a really wonderful way for us to showcase the incredible work you guys, our grantees, are doing, but they're also a great networking opportunity, which can lead to great collaborations. So I'll introduce our panelists in the order of the year of their grant. First of all, Patience Aki. Patience received the MMEG grant in 2012. Patience, could you give us a wave so we see you? Patience received the grant in 2012. She's from Cameroon, and she holds a BA and a master's in education, as well as a PhD in computer integrated education. Patience has taught information and communications technology for over a decade. She's currently at the University of Pretoria, where her focus is on developing self-directed learning skills. Patience believes in the value of technology in learning, and her method combines traditional classroom teaching with technology and online resources and cooperative or group learning. Then we have Tsabi Molako. Tsabi, where is Tabby? There you are. So Tabby received the MMEG grant in 2014. She is from Lesotho and holds a master's and PhD from the University of Cape Town. Tabby has worked as a telecoms engineer, a telephony systems developer, computer science lecturer, and a research scientist. She was a research manager for AI and quantum computing at IBM Research, and holds several IBM patents for technology inventions that improve the quality of life. Sabi is currently executive for research and innovation at South African telecommunications provider Telkom. Welcome, Sabi. And last but certainly not the least, Priscilla Maliwichi. Priscilla, where are you? There you are, but we can't see your face, but hopefully we'll see you later. So Priscilla received, oh, there you are, fantastic. Priscilla received the MMEG grant in 2019. She's from Malawi and holds a Bachelor of Science in Information Technology, a Master's of Science in Informatics from the University of Malawi, a PhD in Information Systems from the University of Cape Town. Priscilla is a lecturer in Information and Communication Technologies and coordinator for postgraduate studies at the Malawi University of Science and Technology. She is also coordinator of the Center for Artificial Intelligence and STEAM. Priscilla is passionate about promoting STEAM, which is traditional STEM subjects plus the arts, and the use of emerging technologies among secondary school girls. Welcome, Priscilla. Thank you, Patience, Sabi, and Priscilla for being with us today. And let me end by introducing our moderator today, another Priscilla, Priscilla Lynn. Priscilla, I see you all in blue there. So there she is, Priscilla Lynn. Priscilla is a member of the MEG board, a past president of the MEG board of directors, and the brain behind MEG Talks. Priscilla holds a doctorate in social anthropology and has pursued educational strategies throughout her 40-year career. It is my pleasure to hand you over to Priscilla to get our session started.
Welcome. I'm going to start by asking the question, what AI tools or technologies are you currently using to promote sustainable development, and how are they integrated into your work process? And I will start with Dr. Malpo or Sabi.
Great. Thank you so much, and good evening, Priscilla and everyone. Great pleasure to once again be with the MEG community, and again, just gratitude from our side for the grants. Many of us wouldn't have achieved, the outcomes that we did with our studies and our PhDs if it wasn't for the support and for the community. So sincerely, thank you very much. So in my line of work, leading R&D in a telecommunications company, we use AI across many of our products, improving the efficiency with which we deliver our services and technologies, etc. So I will talk about many parts of this work as we go along. But one piece of work that excites me a lot is the combination of AI and sensor technologies. So the idea of using AI beyond software. So if we think of the natural environment, on farms, in clinics, in homes, etc., what are often called IoT devices, or devices that can sense the environment, often generate data that can in many ways then generate significant and brilliant insights. A quick example is there's work that our team is looking at of installing sensors, for example, underground, as an example, to detect early signs of earthquakes, to detect early signs of structural changes even in buildings that can prevent disaster before such disasters occur. So that's a bigger picture in terms of where my current AI interest lies, but we can talk about other interests in areas like healthcare and education, which I've also worked on in the past.
You're on mute, Priscilla.
How did that happen? Okay, I didn't mute myself. I must have been muted automatically. Yes, I'd like to move on to the other Priscilla and hear your comments on how you are using AI currently or have used it to augment your work.
Thank you so much. So my work mostly has been in maternal health. So at the moment, we have developed a simulation software, and this software, we are creating clinical cases for maternal health, so that health practitioners, nurses, clinicians, they can use it like to upgrade themselves or to refresh themselves in different case management. And on this one, we have actually trained ChatGPT to actually create clinical cases. So we had a lot of cases and we had to train it so that it can now create cases for us. And this has helped significantly because it helps the case writers for our project to write cases efficiently, because they will just now edit them there and then upload them in the system for the clinicians to use in the simulation software. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes, very personal. And Patience, not least, I would like to hear from you.
Okay, thank you so much again for this opportunity. I've been looking forward for this opportunity. Yes, as you see, mostly I'm an IT lecturer, mostly under education and research. And looking at AI, mostly we use AI for the students to be able to prepare their notes. And when it comes to the part of social development, we touch about the health, how they use it in health, education. But the most interesting part when we talk about AI, because it's actually like a module that we teach students in the university where I'm a lecturer. So we have a module for AI. So the interesting thing is under agriculture where AI is being trained, and mostly we are using robotics. So we see that AI can be able to use through the Internet of Things to be able to identify an area whether it's really good for farming, to dictate about the whether that particular area, is it a swampy area, and also I think mostly about transportation. When we talk about AI, about transportation, which is talking about the self-driving cars. These are two main things that are very interesting and that we are working on. And the next thing is what we are looking at. We want to look at, in the context of transportation here, we are looking at how transparent and explainable AI can be, which means with the self-driving cars, when a car stops, because the software is developed in such a way that when the car stops, the self-driving car, it stops, it should be able to explain to me and you why it stopped automatically, because we assume that the programming or the software is that when the car sees an object like 5 seconds away from the car, it triggers the automatic stop of that self-driving car. So I think, let me not go on and on. We will talk much as we go along. So that is it.
Thank you very
for now.
much. So we have three distinct but very important fields in which AI is being used. I would like to ask, I'm going to mix the order up. Priscilla, the other Priscilla, if you could provide specific examples of projects or initiatives where AI has significantly contributed to economic development.
Yeah, so for me, I'll give an example of I'll still go to health, in our case, we have developed a mobile refrigerator, and this one helps. We have put sensors, like it's an IoT project, where it's able to detect the temperature of this refrigerator to disseminate immunization, like vaccines, to hard to reach areas where there is no electricity, so that the vaccine should reach those areas in good state, so that it can be administered to children. So this is a project, I think it's very good, especially when we think of areas where they cannot afford normal refrigerators, maybe because they don't have electricity, because this one uses a solar, and then the IoT to monitor the temperature so that the vaccine is always good. Yeah, so I think this is a very good project, and it can save life and well as to save money in that regard. Thank you.
That's something I have never heard of. That's terrific. How about you, Tsabi? Do you have some ideas or thoughts about other projects? It can be something you worked on or something you know about.
Exactly. I'm going to switch my devices, but let me speak for so long. So we support research in South Africa in a number of universities, and we collaborate with some as well. And some of the AI-based work that has inspired me a lot lately is application of AI specifically for visually and hearing impaired individuals. And there's some really interesting advancements that are happening there. So as an example, if you can imagine for someone with hearing disability, they typically would need to walk around with a human interpreter to make sense of the world around them. If it's a child, they need to go to school where there is an interpreter that can interpret what the teacher is talking about and the rest of the classroom activity. And now with AI, we're seeing the development of the mobile applications where a child can walk around with a phone that can listen to the conversations and the background activity, and there's an AI generated human on the screen that basically communicates the translation to the child in sign language. And that's incredible advancement, especially considering that, now the advancement allows the interpretation in South African Sign Language, which has always been quite difficult to compute in the past. So some of those advancements are exciting because if you think of applications for women as well, women who couldn't hear had to bring someone with them to a clinic, as an example, to seek care or even to participate in the workplace. But now, if they have a tablet or a phone that can translate the world to them, they can independently participate in economic activities, etc. And the same thing they're seeing for visually impaired individuals as well. Incredible apps, incredible software, and even voice augmented services that locally work for different demographics of citizens. I think that's incredible work, and we're seeing lots of students especially investing time in such research.
Thank you. This is all very fascinating. And Dr. Patience, can you tell us about your knowledge of other uses of AI or something you yourself have had experience with?
Actually, I don't have this okay, I thought I was muted. It's this year that I was trying to see if we can create um a mobile app, but it's not for now, it's not working. But what I do mostly with my rural women, I have like a small group. I just teach them how to be able to generate business ideas using different AI tools, because everything is there. You can get it from AI. So I teach them how to be able to use the AI ethically, but to generate like a business plan. I can just tell them you can ask Chat GPT to be able to generate you a recipe on how to do donuts or on how to do whatever thing. So that's the most of the things that I teach the women, so that they can do that to be able to earn a living. Yes. So I'm like in a basic but a local way of like teaching rural women that they don't know much about computer, but I tell them how to be able to use those various apps.
Thank you. I think that's one that most of us can relate to very easily. I mean, those of us who use ChatGPT, I think that's very effective. I'd like to make sure that you feel free, our three panelists feel free to talk to each other as well, to ask each other questions or follow-up questions. So I'm going to throw this out for whoever wants to answer it. And if no one does, I will ask someone. But I'm going to ask, how do you measure the impact of AI initiatives on economic development goals? Are there metrics or indicators that you can use to assess progress? So if somebody would like to step in and answer, I will listen, and if not, I will ask someone to answer. Okay, how about you, Tsami? What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, sure. It's hard, I think, to definitively isolate and measure the impact of AI, but in many cases, we do set, KPIs that are supported by AI and other systemic decisions and tools as well. So it's hard to isolate AI as a tool independently because it cannot work in isolation. So that's the first thing, right? But there are many cases where AI interventions have demonstrated, improvements in efficiencies and other outcomes. I think a clear example is in healthcare, and I can give some examples there where there have been gains in actual patient outcomes because of the application of AI. In many developing countries, we have struggled a lot with tuberculosis, with managing transmission, with managing treatment. And it's been shown that early detection, early treatment does significantly help with, stopping and curbing the spread of the disease. And there have been at least 3 demonstrated uses of AI in managing TB. The first being, again, just using AI to detect TB in the cough. A properly trained health professional can listen to a cough and very confidently assess the probability of a patient having TB. And now with AI being intelligent enough to recognize and assess, the nature of a cough, that's one way that a mobile phone can flag a patient as potentially having TB or not. There have been cases where we have seen the use of X-rays that are mobile, that can be attached to mobile phones and used in rural clinics, etc. And having those images either sent through to radiologists or processed on the device as well. Again, accelerating the rate at which people can go through diagnostics and other similar solutions. There's also been another way of tracking using AI, the spread of infection in regions. So we can know that there seems to be a transmission or rate of infection increasing in a certain pattern. That way interventions can be placed in time. And here in Africa, in Middle Asia and other places, there has been quite extensive evidence of these particular solutions actually curbing the rate at which TB spreads in these communities. That's one example.
Wow. It's amazing. I'm learning so much. I hope other people are as well. Dr. Aki, would you like to step in and say anything about this metrics? Since you teach in college, perhaps that's part of your curriculum, or is that something that you are not working on? Are you muted?
She's
Oh,
muted.
are you muted? We can move on to Priscilla. If you'd like to answer this, would you be able to provide some insight on this question?
Yes. So AI can help significantly, for example, to detect diseases. So if you're using an AI tool and, for example, someone is sick and has got rashes and it's able to detect that that's chickenpox, that's something, instead of the physicians to go and book so many tests, they can just go for that specific one. And then in the end, you find that you've saved money. Even from the patient perspective, you don't have to pay for so many tests for you to be diagnosed, but because the AI tool has helped to make a quick diagnosis. So it is, very good in saving money. And also in terms of workflow, so the doctor will make very quick decisions, and in so doing, they can be more productive, more efficient by looking at more patients. Because like here in Africa, you find that the health system is always overburdened because there are a lot of patients, especially public hospital, to be treated. Like in Malawi, you find that the public hospitals, because they are free, there are a lot of patients there. So if they can cut on the tests that are being done, the hospital can save a lot of money because of using AI tools, for example. Thank you.
Thank you. And patients, have you been able to hook up, or are you muted?
Okay. No?
Hello?
Can you
Yes?
hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, can hear you, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, what I can just add to what the other speakers have just said is in the context of food security or in agriculture. Remember here we are so much in Africa that when we talk about this, agriculture is something. So with AI, it can actually helps in a very high crop productivity, because if our farmers, if they understand, they can be able to use the AI tools to be able to dictate an area. And then with that, when they dictate an area that will be good for them to be able to have a very large production. And then I think that is one of the things that the impact that I can talk about, the impact of AI. And in our context in Africa, farming is something that is actually helping. So if we can be able to train our farmers to be able to use AI tools that would be able to determine and help them to determine an area that this place is good for farming, then our farmers will not strain or will not use their energy, and at the end they don't actually get what they're supposed to do. We will have high production, and then they will be able to also serve, and they will have money. I think that's just in that area of the impact. I'd like to talk more on agriculture.
Well, feel free to continue if you have more to say. Or we can move on. That's
So I
fine.
wanted to say quickly, Priscilla, that, I mean, I think one of the things that we're seeing, especially with agriculture, is I think one of the ladies said as well earlier how this connected IoT and other devices are actually helping to improve productivity in farming quite significantly. So, for example, there's cases we've seen where on a single farm, you'd find that there's cameras that can monitor livestock. At the same time, there's even sensors now that can monitor smell on a farm. You can monitor everything from the environment in which the animals are reared, including the waste, etc. And with that, you find there's also now more. You enable fusion of different types of data sets, right? And the insights there are incredible. We have seen farmers here in South Africa actually use even satellite imagery to track the trends of productivity with the changes of climate. Because now in the past, farmers used to depend on very set seasons, very set rainfall patterns, etc. But now everything changes, and there's ways to predict the shifts in rainfall, shifts in flooding, using satellite imagery, using spatial data, etc. So we're seeing a lot of that, and lots of entrepreneurs and students, researchers also getting into the space.
That's fascinating. And it shows that the two of you are very much working on the same kind of end of the spectrum of this important situation. What challenges have you faced in implementing AI solutions? Maybe Priscilla can talk about this.
Yeah, thank you so much. So like in our case, mostly is, for example, the type of mobile phones, especially if you want to implement AI solutions in rural communities, because mostly they are using basic mobile phones. But mostly you want to implement this on based on a smartphone. So that's the challenge mostly. And also in other circumstances is the internet connection. It can be that people does not have financial resources to buy, for example, data bundles, or maybe the area is too remote that maybe the cell phone tower is far away, so maybe the signal is not good enough. So these are some of the challenges that we are facing. Thank you.
Thank you. And do you find the government or is working to improve these connections, or how are people getting getting this kind of information if they're having trouble with their devices and the connection?
So nowadays, like the mobile service providers, they kind of learn in sharing. So if one mobile service provider has got a tower in one area, they are all using that resource to provide connectivity. At first, it was not common. You find each one was using their own towers, and it became very expensive for them to connect everyone. So at least nowadays, they are able to share those resources. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And Patience, how about you? Have you found conflict or challenges in implementing AI or providing devices or bandwidth?
Yes, that is the biggest challenge of using AI is the connectivity. And what I'm trying to do, like, let me say in the context of Cameroon, when I'm dealing with the women. So what we do now, most people, we are advising them to be able to have solar systems in their environment. So when they have solar, because we have connectivity issue, and then we also have issue of the wheat ban, as I think Priscilla just mentioned here, where the service provider, so we at least we meet up with we talk to the service provider if they can be able to help so that they actually have that high wheat ban. We are trying to talk about the 5G, that is coming, because normally they have their normal mobile phones. So we encourage them, those who can be able to get a smartphone, so that they can be able to get those things, and then the service provider should be able to help them to make sure that they have the 5G that can be able to accommodate the devices. And in the context of research or in education, as I said, that I'm mostly based on that. That's where we are talking about Internet of Things. And then we are saying that 5G and and technology, this AI, remember AI tools only move along with as technology is evolving. That is how AI tools are also evolving. So if you have all devices, they will not be able to accommodate. So these are some of the challenges that we educate them, that we try to see if they can have resources to actually have acquire mobile phones that can be able to help them to use them for their to using AI tools within their agriculture. So that is the main thing, is the bandwidth issue, the connectivity issue, and the network. Remember, in Africa, we have load shedding, or you have this, and with AI, with those things, if there is no electricity, and then nothing can work.
Yeah. Do you find that people are willing to share devices or work together to use these devices to help one another, or because of the nature of the population being spread out, that this is not a very practical solution?
Yes, like, if, let me say, having something like this, and we're having a talk, or we have something, so we can decide that those who don't have a smartphone, they can like sit in a group. And then if they, let's say I have a population of about 20 women that I need to educate and talk to them, and only about 5 or 3, they actually have a mobile phone that will be able to connect. So we separate them. They can be in different locations, and then we can separate them into 4 groups, like 5, 5. And then those who have mobile phones, so they are ready to cooperate and they are ready to share, so that they use one mobile phone, and then they sign in, and then they follow up the information.
you. I'd like to know, to get to the second part of our discussion, which is how can people learn about AI in Africa? How accessible is it to, find out how it can be used in these very practical and dynamic ways? Where, I understand that you're teaching patients, and I wondered if either Sabi or Priscilla could talk to this. That you yourselves have managed to achieve a very high standard, and I was wondering how you see other, particularly young women, but other people as well, how they might also benefit from learning more about AI.
Yeah, with let's say in a context with the teaching how they use AI tools. The first thing is we talked about the chat. Chat GPT is what we mostly that I teach. Let me just give an example in the context of research. With Chat GPT now is very easy because you can use even the free version, and there is a lot of specifications that you can actually get information. You can get whatsoever thing, even if you want to, like as which common example that I can give on chat, you can I teach them, the women, the local women, that they are not like mostly educated, just few these things. So I teach them how to use chat to be able to generate even their CVs. Yes, to be able to write a cover letter if they're like applying for a job, those basic things, and those I'm trying to encourage for them to further their education. I'm telling them AI is there to be able to help you, because with ChatGPT you can analyze your data using just the normal basic ChatGPT without buying the app. The free version, you can be able to analyze even a diagram. You can pick up a diagram and then you ask chat that, what is this image all about? Can you explain this? So these are some of the things that in the context of education that I try to educate the women, that there's anything. And then I can say 2 weeks back, we're having something in my church and they needed a song. Chat is there. AI tools are there to be able to generate the music. Is there to do everything. So I teach them what to do, how to use AI. And then this example that I usually give my students about during COVID, we know that like in China, during the lockdown period, what happens was that everybody was in, but in China, everything was just going on normal because they were using robots. They actually train robots to be able to go around and distribute food. So what happened was, a robot, you sit in your room like what we do in Africa or even out there in Europe, we call Mr. what, whether Mr. Uber Eats, what I'm not used to like ordering food outside. So robots were like, you sit in your room and then if you want to buy food, you want to order food in a shop, everything was there. They actually send the robots. A robot will come to your door, knock at your door, and then drop your food, whatsoever thing that you were buying. So these are some of the things that we are motivating, and I'm telling the women that we can also do it in Africa. But as we said, our issue is the connectivity, the widband and all the devices. Can our women be able to get those resources? Can we be able to have these resources in order to enjoy what AI can actually give us?
Right. Tabi, can you talk about how girls or people in general are being educated about learning how to create things like Chat GPT so that more people can participate in this new field of science?
Sure. I think this is maybe twofold. The opportunities with AI, especially for women and girls and youth. The first is encouraging people to participate in what is the current biggest problem for AI globally, which is the absence of data. So in most developing countries, we don't have enough data on the internet that is being fed into AI models. So the AI models we use and consume today know very little about the world in which we live. So right now, if you search for something on ChatGPT or any of the custom AI solutions, it's highly likely that the information that's very relevant to our local experience is not there. So what this means is that there is an opportunity for people to actually, get into the career, even the entrepreneurial space of generating relevant data for different contexts. So a lot of our history isn't digitized. A lot of information, economical and otherwise, it's not on the internet. It's not digitized. Data about even the cost of basic goods in rural and informal settlements. None of that exists in formats that can be used to train AI models. So there's a big opportunity for young people, for women especially, to work closely with groups, organizations, and researchers that are developing AI solutions for this context. And that's a big one. And I've seen many initiatives trying to push in this direction. The other is, again, just now democratizing who can create AI, right? We have been talking about schools and teachers who consume and use AI tools in classrooms, and there's very little flexibility there. And if you think about a teacher is trained to be empowered enough to put together a lesson plan and materials for teaching and so on. And if they don't have much control over the AI materials that get into the classroom, we are limiting, the impact that they can have on the pedagogy that they're delivering in the classroom. So there's another challenge that, especially for young girls and young people, we're encouraging them to think about creating accessible AI tools that a teacher in primary school can easily get into this tool and create material for a grade 1 classroom. I don't need to go to ChatGPT and struggle with difficult prompts to create a lesson or a story for a grade 2 or an elementary level class. So those are the two opportunities that I'm seeing. Is yes, people can be taught, I think, the way that Priscilla is putting it, to explore existing tools, but we still have a big gap with data. We have a big gap with our languages that still have to be understood by current AI models. And our women throughout the continent are some of the most fluent in our languages. They can help to generate corpora, generate voice resources that can drive the next generation of AI for the continent.
Wow, thank you. We're going to open to questions, but I want to get Priscilla's answer to this question, and then we will open the chat to the questions from our audience. So Priscilla, do you have some thoughts on this that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, thank you. So basically, like in our case, our students, we teach them to use basic AI tools like Grammarly. You don't want to receive an essay with bad English because like English is not our mother language. So they have to use the tools that are there to make sure that maybe their assignment is good. And also, apart from that, our role as educators is to develop AI developers, future AI developers. So we train them how to do, for example, web development using AI, to develop web applications that use AI tools, and also we have programs like data science, where we teach them machine learning and how they can develop different models, Internet of Things, applications, and so on. And apart from that, we also go to the industry and tell them that if they need AI solutions, we are there to help them. And we have this initiative where industry come to us and seek for AI solutions, and we provide for them for free because there is a fund for that to make sure that our industries also are able to use AI tools in their day-to-day work. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now, I'm sure many of you are urgently wanting to ask a question, so please unmute yourself when you ask your question. And who would like to be the first person to, who would like to be the first person to ask a question? You can speak up or raise your hand, either way.
Can I ask a question, Priscilla?
Absolutely. Yes.
First of all, ladies, I have learned so much in this short time. It's just absolutely amazing what you're doing, what you're sharing. So thank you. My question is based on something that Sabi has just said, which I had imagined coming from Africa too, that the challenge would be getting access to AI for the vast majority of the population. But what you've said, Sabi, that opens up an industry to women or people in the continent to be able to provide data for AI is a fantastic opportunity. I mean, I hope that there are people listening who have the entrepreneurial spirit that can go out there and tap these women, not just as users of AI, but as providers. They have vast experience, they have history, they have so much knowledge. For them to be able to share that in order to make that more valuable for the users is a fantastic opportunity. And I wonder if you have any ideas as to how we can get somebody to harness all of that and provide these opportunities, because there'll be no shortage of people willing to provide the data.
Mm. I mean, the truth is someone has to cultivate the opportunities, as is the case in many cases where, we want to make opportunities available to others. As an example, many AI researchers who receive grants now, a large portion of their grants goes to the curation of data sets, especially here, right? And it's more now, how do we connect these researchers to, to those individuals that are able to help with this? Sometimes and often there are online platforms that people volunteer on or that subscribe to provide services such as annotating of data sets or generating data or copyright sometimes for the spoken language. Again, it's just maybe about teaching people to access some of those websites that I know technology companies and research teams use, where they seek participants to conduct some of these tasks. So it's someone has to facilitate it, someone has to assist in driving some of these things. But I also know that even for global AI companies, there are teams here in South Africa and Kenya and Nigeria and other countries where as a new line of work, people are generating data on a daily basis and correcting AI models for some of these large AI corporations in the United States, as an example. So it's an open opportunity, but for me, what excites me, especially for our languages, is someone has to facilitate the generation and someone has to pay for it. And often, like I'm saying, big companies looking for solutions, researchers with the grant support to do this are a good place to start. I mean, even in us, in industry, there are many solutions that we can't deploy now because our AI doesn't understand the languages our people speak. As an example now, we're looking at just simply understanding social media feedback, on various aspects of our customer experience online in South Africa. We can't analyze half of the data from social media because our AI can't understand our written language. And we can only get there when our languages are written and AI models are trained. So there's an opportunity for that, and we can now go out and pay for these groups to generate, curate, and label some of these data sets. I don't know if that helps, but it has to be coordinated, and I'm hoping that private companies, that research teams can lead this effort and democratize people's access to these opportunities.
Thank you. Yes, you have answered my question. Thank you.
Do we have another question? I can throw more questions out. I just thought maybe the audience had some questions that they would like to ask.
I do have another question. Mayo, I think Esther has her hand up, or is it?
Oh, please go
Elna,
ahead,
sorry,
Esther.
Elna had a hand up.
Elna. Yeah, please go ahead.
Hello. Yes, if I can ask Sabi, she mentioned something, and I think Priscilla also alluded to the same kind of thing when you said about the doctors that can, or the nurses or whoever in the rural areas can actually use a cell phone to listen to a cough. And I think Priscilla mentioned the fact that they can use a cell phone, if I understood correctly, to see a rash, whether it's chicken pox or whatever. Is that generally used already? Are they using this in South Africa? Is it common, or is this just in a development stage, or how? I'm just curious to know whether this is being used
Priscilla, maybe you
right
can go
now.
first. Priscilla, you can go ahead.
Okay. So, of course, now there are tools that they are using to do that. There have been a lot of data sets, models that have been trained to be able to help them. So we are using those tools also. Yeah. Sabi, you want to add?
Yeah, this question actually hits on the head one of the, one of the biggest challenges with AI, which is many high potential solutions are not scaling. That's the reality. A lot of this breakthroughs that we're seeing are either, very good demonstrations coming out of research, or smaller, smaller companies or smaller breakthroughs. When it gets really expensive to scale, because sometimes those very solutions are very expensive to deploy, let alone to duplicate at scale. And number two, sometimes the learnings just, especially from the research community, they just end up in forums like this, or maybe very small pilots, and there often isn't enough resources to actually fund the scale. Some of it is technology. As I said, it can be very expensive to run this type of thing at scale, and there has to be funding to support the perpetual use of such a technology. And the other is, as much as there is evidence that this can be used, they still can sometimes, we need longer studies to actually ascertain the safety of these tools in the public health setting, as an example. Some of the solutions have indeed scaled. In some cases in private healthcare, then private, hospitals and providers are able to finance, the expansion that I'm talking about. They're able to fast track some of the studies that can ascertain safety, and therefore they can roll some of the solutions out quicker. But in the public health system, unfortunately, the scale can be slow for some of those reasons, and many other reasons as well. There's a lot of exciting work that is not going out as much as we would have hoped, and therefore the impact is not always the way that we, or at least at the level that we would have hoped it would be right now. I hope that helps and it's not too pessimistic, but
No, it sounded very, promising, and I thought, wow, that's great if they can get to that point. So I was just wondering, did I misunderstood it, that it's already been used, or it's still in progress? But we hope for the progress. Thank you.
Some cases are, some of the solutions are, the work on TB that I talked about as an example. There was a case from Middle Asia in at least 3 countries, that a particular solution with tuberculosis on the cough, and the mobile-based X-rays that was deployed, but it was in a study versus, an operational public health service. But that was a longitudinal study, and we saw that at a scale that solution could work. And I'm not sure if after that it was deployed publicly and perpetually.
Yes. How about Patience, do you have any comments on how much the AI is being researched versus how much it is actually being deployed in your country?
It's what the AI is like is something new. Remember, in the part of education and in research in Africa, not only in my country, even in South Africa where I am working, you know, when this AI came, it was like a taboo that we don't want students to. I remember I had a serious like fight with my professor. By then I was a researcher, I was doing research, and my professor was like, don't even mention this to our students because they will not read. And my take was, Prof, this thing has come to stay. And the way I always equate it, I always tell my students, look at AI as Google Scholar. Remember when Google Scholar came, we were looking at Google as if it was very bad. We thought that there is not. Now we tell our students that if you are looking for information, don't go to Google, go to Google Scholar, because we assume that everything on Google Scholar is correct. But it's the same with AI, because with AI, you can get the good information and you can also get misleading information. So this was something in the context of Africa. We still have a long way to go. And I just want to mention something about the language module here that we are talking about. I remember, I think 2 years back or so, but it's long, I did not follow up. There were about 4 professors in Africa that they are actually working on them. They were saying that they want to see that we should be able to incorporate African languages into AI, which means you should be able to ask a prompt in one of our languages, and then AI will actually give you the information. That is it in the part of that. When we also look at AI is something that it helps you to like predict, because AI is working on the past or on the history, the information that you give AI. So if you like ask a question, let me come back in the context of agriculture. So if you come and you say the area, let's say around the area of Pretoria, Hatfield, where the University of Pretoria is stationed, and then you ask a question to AI that, can you predict that, what do you think that in the next 5 years, will this area be good for human settlement? I'm just giving a basic example. AI will be able to respond to you depending on the past history of Hatfield. And if it is that when it is during the rainy season and we have floods that water is standing around the area, AI will tell you that the next 5 years, maybe this environment will not be good for human settlement, or people will not be able to settle there because it is swampy and maybe the houses will be sinking. I don't know whether you understand what I'm trying to say about yes, about the AI. So those are just some of the challenges. So AI enables you. That's why we are saying that when it comes to agriculture or AI, following the history of that area, AI should be able to determine that this particular place needs fertilizer, or this place will not be good for farming because there is nothing like water on this place. Yes. And then in the context of teaching the students also, we just need to tell the students, because there's a lot, because I diverted on how I was trying to give the example of Google Scholar and Google itself, then with AI. There is a lot, because there are different AI tools that students can use, because they can AI tool that you use an AI tool to generate an essay. There's another AI tool that you will use to be able to summarize that essay. There's another AI tool that you will also use to be able to determine if your essay or information was written by an AI tool, but it will give you, if you know the prompts, as my other colleagues were talking about, if you know the prompts, and then you'll be able to get it right. Like I tell my students, if you use AI to generate your answers, I am used to AI, I know the language. Sometimes I will just tell you this is not true to be that this is your language, because English is not our first language. So you can use that AI to be able to improve your language skills.
Thank you. We have a question from the audience from Inga. I believe she's had her hand up for a while. Would you care to ask your question, Inga? Has she disappeared? Okay. We also have a question.
Thank you so much.
Sorry?
Thank you. Sorry for taking a moment. I just wanted to say thank you for the panelists that we had. It was very interesting, and all the things that are happening in Africa and in the context of AI, and the things we still need to look at and develop going forward. Just to touch very quickly on a study that I'm part of at the moment. It's called PUL. So we're very fortunate that we actually have a AI-driven ultrasound machine that we use to determine gestational ages for women in pregnancy. So we're actually using that in our study, and we're seeing actually if it works in the African context, and then they use AI to determine the gestational age of the pregnancy. So what they plan on developing is the ultrasound machine is as big as a briefcase, and in that, then it's easier to scan women wherever they are in the world. So then you don't need a sonographer or trained person to actually do gestational age determination of the babies. So that was just an interesting facet of how AI is being used in maternal health. So thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We have a question from Giselle, who's written it in the chat. But Giselle, if you're here, would you like to ask your question?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you for this great presentation. My first question, especially in the health sector in sub-Saharan Africa, we have a severe lack of infrastructure and trained professionals. And we know that AI is really developing at a fast pace and growth in terms of tools and applications. In a practical way, how can African countries catch up and effectively implement these technologies on a large scale to improve people's lives? And my second question is about languages. In many countries, including my country of origin, Cameroon, local languages are not written, right? They're mostly oral, and they're not used for instruction or business. How do you think AI will be able to improve access to these local languages? Thank you.
Thank you. Who would like to step in? How about you, Priscilla?
Okay, let me come in to try on the second question. I'm also from Cameroon. I think we have about 200 and something local languages. So I understand where Giselle is coming from, that she is asking. I think that in our context in Africa, when we talk about the languages, this can only work if some of us, like the researchers, if we can come up and then we try to train this AIs with our basic languages. But as you said, it is really difficult, and that is one of the challenges because we have so many languages, local languages. But like we always say that in Cameroon, we have two official languages, which is English and French. But when it comes to the local languages, that's where it will be very difficult, because I can promise you here that even myself, I'm not sure that in my local language, my father is from a different place, my mother is from a different place, I'm married to a different place. I promise you that I cannot write a sentence. I'm not sure that I can write or that I even know the alphabet in those local languages. But so that is something that we are fighting. So what I was talking about, those professors, they were like, let's say in the context of South Africa, they have 11 official languages. So it is for them, I think it is easy that they can be able, because they can read and they can write with those languages. And some of the languages, they actually teach their students with their local languages. That's why you will see there's an issue with language in the university in the context of South Africa, because when students, when they leave from their local areas, they use their one of their languages to teach them, and when they come into the university now, the only language that they teach them is either English or Afrikaans. So for the past few years now, they are trying to bring in one of their like CPD or what to teach them. So you see, when the students come, they struggle because they don't understand. Now, each time, if they are answering a question, they have to convert that question in their language that they were taught in school to convert it into English. So it is difficult that we still have many years before we can be able to train AI in our local languages. We have work. So researchers can come up and try to see those who know how to speak those languages. The first thing me and you, we have to start learning the alphabet in our different local languages before we can be able to train the AI to do that. I hope I try to contribute on that part of the language.
Yes. We're getting close to the closing time, and I very much think that Giselle's question is a very important one. Is there somebody who wants to tackle that very quickly? And then we will have to wrap this up, although I'm sure at least I would like to continue. So this is about, how can Africa catch up, basically? Giselle, do you want to restate that so that it's correct, that you say it correctly?
On the healthcare question, Giselle, you want to repeat that? Or
just the
Yes,
first one?
the first one was about specifically healthcare. I mean, I'm in the US and all around the world, the pace and the growth of AI tools and applications in healthcare is really breathtaking. Every day there's something new. And given the lack of infrastructure and trained professionals in Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, practically, how can African countries catch up and effectively implement these technologies to improve people's lives? Because, healthcare is a big problem. And we are all trying to think of accessible solutions, and AI is certainly something that can help.
Bobby, would you like to answer this? Oh, sorry.
Yes, one or two things, I think some of which we've already touched on in healthcare. The first is the more basic, which we need to start off with, is especially in the public health system, in rural health, etc. There are some very clear inefficiencies in how healthcare services are provided. And one of the first things is just to truly look at which are the most inefficient steps in care that can be automated with AI or monitored using data in general. So we ran a study when I was at IBM Research looking at public health clinics as an example, and looking at people come and spend a day for one consultation at a public health clinic. Where is the delay happening? So we use some IoT devices and a bit of AI, and quickly just realized that there are people who wait on a queue for 2 hours just to get their weight taken, and maybe something like that glucose, like that glucose recorded. Then they'll go and wait to the queue again for something as mundane as that. So that's just the first thing, is AI can significantly help us understand where inefficiencies are, such that we optimize access to the very few trained resources that we have, trained professionals, as it were. And the other is just the more data we collect and the more this data is used actually and given to patients to empower them, we can track risks more proactively. And as I said earlier with the case of TB, with the case of TB, in programs that are helping us further with prevention. We've seen cases where, for example, with pregnant women, with a simple mobile application on their phone, there's things that they can measure at home and submit on a phone, and this can be seen remotely by a healthcare worker. And if there's any risk that's upcoming, then very easily this data-informed alert can be made in time. That by itself is a small difference, a small intervention where a woman logs her own data, and a healthcare worker who serves a huge and large population can see these insights over time. So these are small changes that can very quickly make a difference. And on the other hand, it doesn't mean we shouldn't be spending time developing this more intelligent diagnostic tools, which I think there's a lot of work happening on the ground. But the biggest advancement, though, the biggest opportunity is what I think the colleagues alluded to earlier. There's a lot of air commercial it's coming from. Challenges with electricity, challenges with connectivity, etc. So as much as we're seeing devices, tools, AI methods from around the world, we have to design for the limited resources we have. So a lot of solutions have to cater for intermittent power. We have to, as much as possible, think about placing computing on the devices themselves, so that we can still compute and still generate insights, even if there's no internet or devices are offline. So that's just, I think my thinking there is, let's design this cutting-edge solutions. We definitely have to keep playing at that level, but bearing in mind that we have this infrastructural difficulties that we have, but at the same time, there's many inefficiencies, which just using data alone and very limited analytics, we can significantly improve the outcomes for many patients around the continent.
Thank you so much. I'm afraid we have to wrap up. I suppose if somebody has a really burning question, they could either write individually to one of our panelists or contact mmeg.org and ask a question that way, and we could forward it. I really, really want to thank our panelists. I think this has been a most enlightening and important discussion, bringing up so many topics that I think have not been familiar to many of us. And it makes me say how pleased I am myself personally that MMEG is able to give grants to women such as these who continue after their education to contribute so incredibly much to the well-being of all of us in our communities. So thank you very much, and you say goodbye.
Thanks, Priscilla. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Great
Thank you, ladies.
presentation.
Thank you very much, all of you.
Yes.
Thank
We
you.
so appreciate your time. We know how busy you are.
I stopped the recording.
Okay.